Hello, and welcome to You Don't Get It, a show where we hear about things we don't get. Today I have with me Mark Eaton and Kaylin Coates, and they're going to talk about writing for characters. So let's hear what they have to say. So, I don't get writing for characters. Can you tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. Can you write your name?
Yes.
Then you can write for characters.
Oh, really?
So, yes. Because if you think about it, you have to name your characters, so you have a name.
That's true.
It's as good a place as any to start.
Characters are what is necessary to move a story forward.
If you think about your own background, what are some of the significant turning points in your own life? If you write those down, if you can then fictionalize them in some way, then you've basically written a character.
Well, you're going to need a conflict. Typically, it's going to be one of the characters that either starts the conflict, perhaps it's a mistake, or it's a trait of the character that needs to be corrected that ends up causing the issue. Like in Finding Nemo, Marlin, I believe, is the father's name. His main issue is that he is overprotective of his son. And so you could argue that because of that, this kind of eggs his son on to then rebel and then end up getting caught by the fishermen. And that kind of propels the entire story forward.
That would be where you start then.
It could be, yeah.
So what are some other ways you could start to figure that out?
You can start really anywhere. You can start with character. You could start with plot. You could start with themes or a message of some kind. You could just start with a great location and think, man, I want to shoot a movie right there. And then just kind of spin it together from that, because it involves all of those things. Where you kind of start with this many-sided puzzle is kind of up to you, but as long as you explore every one of them completely, then you've got a good shot at writing a good screenplay.
Typically, I kind of start backwards. It's not necessarily the best way, but I typically will start with like the plot of the story and kind of look at where the characters fit into that.
So tell me about what the character arc is.
Okay, so on a really basic level, I'm 19, I'm not a professional screenwriter, but on a very basic level, a character arc is kind of a character's journey.
So is it harder to figure out the arc of the character or the motivation the character has?
It kind of depends on what story element comes to you first. If you think, wow, wouldn't it be great if a character started here and then ended up here? Or, if they ended up here, how would they start? Well, they should start back here so that the change by the time they get over to here is pretty significant. So if that comes to you with the original inspiration, then trying to figure out the rest of it to make it fit, what is their motivation? What makes them want to get from there to here that will guide them through each choice along the way. So,
what are some other things that go into knowing how to try to figure out the character? I know you said the background and whatnot, but are there any other key things that you can look for? Or
the character has to be compelling. They have to be watchable. It's somebody that you really want to spend your 2.5 hours or whatever it is watching them. So is it just a quirky mannerism that they have about them? Are they just really, really interesting? What makes them interesting? If you're watching, the Avengers, and I don't know if you have a favorite character, I'm always kind of fascinated with Tony Stark and why he does what he does, because he's a complex little genius, not only, gifted technologically, not only got $1 jillion and can do basically whatever he dreams up, but he's got that rebel streak in him, and he's really at his best when he is just jamming to AC/DC and flying at 1,000 miles an hour. But he's also got this desire to save and protect his world, and I think trying to channel those into the same direction can kind of make plots happen, which is kind of interesting. Why does he make the decisions that he does? Is he trying to protect the world, or is he trying to rebel against it? Don't know.
So what process do you follow when you're trying to come up with the character's backstory?
As far as creating backstory, I think it kind of goes back to character motivation. If you have a character that's guilty about something, such as I mentioned earlier, why are they guilty about something? Let's talk about Finding Nemo. In the beginning, Marlin is very overprotective. Why is he overprotective? We know that because he's overprotective, his son gets kidnapped, and that drives the entire story. So why is he overprotective? Well, that would be a case of the writer saying, okay, we know we want his character go on this adventure, and we think it's because he's overprotective or has a bad relationship of some sort. We don't really know. That's when you could think, okay, well, what if he lost his wife and all of his other children? Well, that would explain why he's overprotective. So I think it comes back to a lot character arc and character motivation.
What's your favorite part of figuring out your characters?
Little discoveries, I think, just kind of finding out, what makes them tick. And there's that moment when they kind of come alive for you, and part of it is you can just kind of hear their voice a little bit, and you know how they would react and how they would respond given this situation. Well, they would obviously, do this because that's who they are. That's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And now you know.